So is the shutdown over? I mean, it has to go to the House, and now the House is saying that they're not going to pass it.
The House should be. I don't think there's any real belief that they're not going to pass it. The big hurdle was the Senate, and they got through the Senate.
Right.
Now we just get to watch the ongoing Democratic civil war over whether Chuck Schumer is going to be removed or not.
It is crazy. So, let me go through something that came in from the New York Times. What were the Democrats thinking? It starts out in this op-ed back in September when I was reporting an article, Democrats should shut down the government. I kept hearing the same warning from veterans of past shutdown fights. President controls the bully pulpit, and parts of the government will stay open, and he decides what parts close. It's very, very hard for the opposition party to win a shutdown, blah, blah, blah. Now they have brokered a deal over the weekend as the Senate Democrats broke ranks and negotiated a deal to end the shutdown in return for, if we're being honest, very little, according to the New York Times. The guts of the deal are this. Food assistance, both SNAP and WIC, will get a bit more funding. There will be a few other modest concessions on spending levels elsewhere in the government. Laid off federal workers will be rehired, and furloughed federal workers will given back pay. Most of the government is funded only until the end of January, so get ready. We'll be doing this again. The deal does nothing to extend the expiring Affordable Care Act tax credits, which Democrats substantially shut down the government for in the first place. First of all, it's not the Affordable Care tax credit. That's not why you shut it down. There are tax credits, yes, but this is different. These were the government subsidies. Leave it to the New York Times. Let me lay this really clear. Democrats demanded a continuation of the enhanced subsidies for the American Care Act. Okay, they were temporarily expanded during the pandemic. These were not the tax credits. These were extra subsidies stuffed into the 2021 American Rescue Plan as an emergency measure. Remember the one we had to pass this in the middle of the night. Nobody could read it. Well, that was what was in it. And these subsidies lowered the premiums more than usual, expanded the eligibility far above the original ACA income caps, and was always designed to be temporary just for COVID. So if you were in COVID and you lost your job, you didn't have health care or whatever, you could get on the ACA, even though your salary was higher than it would be accepted. Normally, you could get on it. But once they created this, Washington does what Washington always does, and they won't let it go. Okay. It's not the tax credit. To understand why this shutdown will end with such a whimper, you need to understand the strange role the ACA subsidies played in it. Democrats said the shutdown was about subsidies, but for most of them, it wasn't. Now, this is the New York Times saying this. It was about Trump's authoritarianism. It was about showing their base and themselves that they could fight back. It was about treating an abnormal political moment abnormally. The ACA subsidies emerged as the shutdown demand because they could keep the caucus sufficiently united. They put Democrats on the right side of public opinion, even though self-identified MAGA voters wanted the subsidies extended, and they held the quivering Senate coalition together. You shut the government down with the Democratic caucus that you have, not with the Democratic caucus that you want. But the shutdown was built on a crack foundation. There were Senate Democrats who didn't want to shut down at all. There were Senate Democrats who did want to shut down, but thought it was strange to make their demand so narrow. Was winning on health care premiums really winning the right fight? Shouldn't Democrats really vote to fund a government turning towards authoritarianism as long as health insurance subsidies are preserved? And what if winning the health care fight was actually a political gift to Trump? Now, listen, this is the New York Times. Absent a fix, the average health insurance premium for 20 million Americans will more than double. The premium shock will hit red states really hard. Trump's longtime pollster had released a survey of competitive house districts showing that letting the tax credits expire might be lethal to Republican efforts to hold the House. Why were the Democrats fighting so hard to neutralize their best issue in 2026? The political logic of this shutdown fight was inverted. If Democrats got the tax credits extended, if they won, they'd be solving a huge electoral problem for the Republicans. If Republicans successfully allowed the tax credits to expire, if they won, they'd be handing the Democrats a cudgel which would beat them in the next elections. This is unbelievable. I mean, they're saying it out loud. You know what I mean? They go on in this to say, quote, why can't Republicans just accept reality? These healthcare subsidies are working. No, they're not. No, they are not. They are propping. Okay. They're scaffolding, holding up a structure that was never sound. They were a COVID era brace jammed under a tottering wall. And now the same architects who swore the house was safe. They're telling you now the splintered wood is actually part of the design. What? This is the power the mainstream media has. The press still has over millions of Americans. It's kind of like a hypnotic chokehold. You say the word subsidy enough times with the right sad piano music under it, and suddenly we forget what subsidies are. Here's what subsidies are, gang. Money borrowed from the Chinese, but we're on the hook. No, we're not on the hook for it. Money borrowed from the Chinese, from the future, to hide the failures of the present on decisions that were made in the past. Okay? And now we're told if we don't just keep borrowing forever, America will collapse. No, what collapses is this crazy illusion. Let's be clear about something the op-ed never will admit. The Affordable Care Act didn't fail because of Republicans. It failed because math is a stubborn thing. Because insurance is not health care. Because a program bent around bureaucrats and middlemen will always cost more and deliver less. We have been subsidizing the symptoms. We never treated the disease here. And now, when a shutdown touches those subsidies, suddenly we're told the sky is cracking. TikTok is flooded with panic videos scripted by algorithms that can't really be trusted. The influencers don't even know what they're defending. They just know fear pays better than the truth. And here's the truth. The system was failing long before Trump, long before Biden, long before COVID. And maybe, just maybe, this moment is not a crisis, but an opening. I've said this for months now. The greatest political opportunity of our lifetime now is healthcare reform. Real, actual reform. Not another Washington quick fix, not more subsidies or anything else, not a Band-Aid over a bullet wound, but the Republicans won't do anything about it. I believe, and I say this without hesitation, I think that Trump and RFK Jr. together may be the only combination force in American politics with the will to take a flamethrower to the bureaucracy that is choking doctors and nurses. The pharmaceutical lobby, the insurance labyrinth, the 50 states wrapped in 50 different versions of red tape, all of it has to be confronted. And here's why Trump can't afford to miss this. If he solves even a quarter of this problem, if he can find the way to lower costs, if he increases access, if he frees the market to actually work across state lines, he'll not only win in 2026, he'll be launching a momentum that will carry Vance into the presidency in 2028. This is the key here. But he has to remember something Washington has long forgotten. The people he's negotiating with, they don't want a deal. They don't fear collapse. They welcome it. They have been playing a slow motion color revolution, one where the country has to be impoverished, has to be frightened, and has to be divided to accept the new power structures. Color revolutions only work if your people are hungry, if they're afraid, and they believe the people in the head of the government are authoritarian. When that happens, you can have a color revolution. And every day America does not break. Every day the economy still stands. Every day people wake up and realize their lives are not as hopeless as the media insist. The revolutionaries lose their leverage. So the shutdown is not the crisis. The crisis is the addiction to government medicine. So here's the battle line that matters, I think, most right now. While the press spins, panic, Trump has to gather the brightest minds, the innovators, the disruptors, the people who build things rather than manage decline. That's what he does best. You know, if Elon Musk could do for NASA what Washington could not, then why can't we find, maybe even get Elon Musk? Why can't we unleash the same kind of thinking on healthcare? It's time for radical thinking. Imagine a system where your doctor spends more time listening than actually checking boxes. Imagine competition across state lines. Imagine prices that behave like normal prices because the market is finally allowed to work and government doesn't have its finger on the scale. Imagine freeing the nurses and physicians from the paperwork prisons they're in and letting them practice medicine again. This isn't utopian. That's just uncaptured America. The America before the bureaucratic glacier settled over up absolutely everything in our lives. Trump is the one that can do this. He's hitting home runs, grand slams all the time. All the time. Healthcare is the crack in the wall where sunlight is still getting through. If you solve this, if you solve the pressure and you lower the pressure on the engine behind the color revolution, you win. You win. I'm not even talking about elections. You save the republic. You solve this, and you solve the fear that drives half of our political dysfunction. Washington thinks the shutdown is a battlefield. It's not. The battlefield is health care. The future is decided there. And the man who breaks that system open and lets Americans breathe again will shape this country for a generation. And the only guy to do it is Donald Trump.